everybody, welcome to something brand new for my channel. I'm going to be doing a book review for the first time ever. So those of you who have watched some of my channel in the past know that I love the Star Wars books, and I wanted to do something different here. So I just got done listening to Dooku, Jedi Lost, and I wanted to do a review on there. And I was super excited about this book going in for a couple of reasons. First off, I tend to like the dark side books following the villains much better than kind of the light side books. Not always, but as a general trend, I like seeing the opposite perspective, seeing how they became the way that they are, or whatever the individual book dives into. So anytime a dark side book comes out, I'm all over it. I'm reading it as soon as I can. The second reason is that it has some of my favorite characters. Ventress has become one of my favorite Star Wars characters, in large part because of the book Dark Disciple, which was a book following her and Quinlan Voss. And that was an amazing book. I won't go into that, but one of my favorite books, which has made Ventress one of my favorite characters. Ventress plays a large part in this book, so I was excited to see more and more of her. And then this is a new format. So this was an audio only book, and it's narrated by a full cast, and it's basically like listening to a play. So you don't have a lot of the narration that you would have in a normal book. It's mostly people talking. So you get some narration, but it's done by the characters themselves. And I was super excited for that new format. And then I got into it, and I didn't initially like it at first. I did kind of struggle with it, but then by the end I kind of picked up on things, and I ended up really loving it. So it took some getting used to, but in the end I was glad I was in that format. I probably wouldn't want to read everything, or in this case listen to everything in that format, but I would definitely love to see some more things. So the reason I struggled initially was because you have to be able to identify who is talking. So each character is voiced by a different actor, and you have to be able to recognize those characters, which I'm kind of slow to pick up on. And anytime you start a new book with new characters, you have to learn everybody's names, and I'm not very good at that. It usually takes me. I kind of have to associate what they've done, some events that happen, their personalities as I begin to learn more about them, and the characters become more memorable. I pick up on things and remember who everybody is more, and it was a little more difficult in this format. Most people aren't going to really struggle with that. I don't know why I have such a hard time remembering all these characters and getting introduced to everybody, but it was an issue just to start out with, and then in the middle. And in this book, we jump around quite a few years, so there's constantly new characters being introduced. So it was a struggle at times, but it wasn't awful. It didn't ruin the book, and like I said, it ended up being a net positive in the end, because this book is only 6 hours long, which is very short for an audiobook, but it didn't feel short, and that's because they were able to cut out a lot of things. You're cutting out all of this narration, which saves a lot of time. You don't have to. So for example, when you're reading a book, you might read something like Dooku yelled out in pain, and then whatever he said. And this one, you don't have that narration. He's just yelling out in pain, and you're listening to what he says, and you can tell by his voice what type of mood he's in, or that he's in pain, or whatever it is. And then on top of that, you don't have long narrations describing the scenes or describing what all is going on. You kind of have to pick up some of it from the conversation that's going on, and they do a very good job of describing that in their conversation, so that you're able to pick up on what's going on. But it's not like, so when you're reading a normal book, when they go into Dooku's castle, they might describe what the castle looks like and try to paint a vivid picture for you. And you don't really have a lot of that going on here, unless it's something that's kind of crucial to the story or helps explain things. So you don't get those vivid pictures, but it's not, me personally, it's not something that I usually need. I know why some people really like that, and they want the author to paint this perfect picture for them. I personally don't care if I'm picturing Dooku's castle correctly. I just use my own imagination and kind of come up with my own creation. And if that's right, then great. And if it's not how it was intended, it really doesn't matter. The story is kind of what's most important to me, and because of this, the story moves along very quickly, and I did love that. So that was a great positive for me. Now, again, it might not be a positive for everybody, but me personally, I absolutely loved that, and I loved how I was able to get through this book very, very quickly. Like I said, 6 hours, where a lot of these other audiobooks are 10, 12, 14 hours. But it didn't feel like I was missing out on the story. It didn't feel like a short story necessarily, and that's just because you get through it so quickly. So as for the story itself, it was very solid. It's probably not a story that is as great as just a standalone story. If you had never seen Star Wars, didn't know who Dooku was, it it's not necessarily the most thrilling story by itself. It's great at filling in these gaps for these characters and explaining who Dooku is, why he became the way he is. I don't want to spoil anything with the story, but it's not something where I was like constantly on the edge of my seat and it was suspenseful or thrilling or anything like that. It was just a good solid story that makes me understand the character better. Whenever I come across Dooku in anything else or watching the movies, I'm going to enjoy them more because I have more of an understanding of who he is, of why he is the way he is. So that was the main thing, and not yeah, it's not something that you're going to text your friends. Oh, you won't believe what happened in this. You've got to read this. It's just a good solid story where you understand what's going on. You get to follow a lot of his life through the Jedi Academy. Sifo Dyas is actually one of the characters that's at the academy. That's one of Dooku's good friends, and he plays a huge role in this book. He's in it throughout, and that's a character that is a very important part of Star Wars lore, but we don't really know a whole lot about him. So I was excited to get a lot more background on him, and I didn't know that before I read the book that he was even in it. So that was exciting, and I was glad to see that. It's actually kind of funny. Dooku, I did not like I didn't really like Dooku's voice, to be honest. He didn't really sound like Dooku. It's kind of funny because he actually sounded more like Harry Potter. I shouldn't say sounded more like Harry Potter, but especially some of the things, it kind of felt like he was Harry Potter. Not felt like he was Harry Potter, but his voice kind of reminded me of it some. There is another character. Oh, I can't remember which one it is at the moment. There's another character that kind of had a British accent, and so as we're going through this Jedi Academy, I'm almost picturing it as Hogwarts, which is not. If you don't like Harry Potter or Hogwarts, it's not really like that. It's not going to be something where if you don't like that, you won't like this. Um, just something that I don't know why I kind of started envisioning those things in my mind. They go through like at the academy, they find some hidden places or some places they're not supposed to be, and it feels like when Harry's getting in trouble at Hogwarts. But but anyways, it was still a very good story. Very quick story. It was absolutely worth reading. If I It's something I would recommend to anybody who has any interest in learning more about Dooku, which is going to be almost all Star Wars fans, unless you're just like there's some people that hate the prequels, want nothing to do with any of that information, don't really care about Dooku, then you probably won't like this as a story. But I would put it very high up on the list of books to read, or in this case, listen to, um, just because I definitely feel it was a good feeling learning about Dooku. It's hard to describe it all without, because I don't want to give any spoilers away or anything like that. Go too in depth of the story, but it was certainly a positive, and I would highly recommend it. So if I was to give this a rating, I'd probably settle on about an 8 out of 10. So definitely good, highly recommended. Wasn't my favorite as far as at the very top of my list. I've read almost all of the canon books except for some of the newest ones. Haven't read very much before that of the Legends books. Only the Darth Bane trilogy. That's the only one I've read, which was excellent. The Darth Bane trilogy, the New Thrawn trilogy, and as I mentioned before, Dark Disciple. Those are probably at the very tops of my list. This is going to be a step below that. Still very good, still enjoyable. It only being 6 hours while still getting in essentially a full story. It certainly increases its value. That's something that I look very favorably on with this new format. So I would highly recommend it. If you want a free copy, you can in the link to the description. I've actually got an Audible link. You can do a free trial. It's a subscription service where you basically get a free, not a free. You get a free first month, but then once you subscribe, you get an audiobook every month. But if you do the free trial, you're not obligated to continue. You can use your free audiobook on Dooku Jedi Lost, and if you can cancel after that if you want. But I'd highly recommend checking out some of these other Star Wars books as well. So I'd like to continue to do more reviews. This is my very first one. Let me know what I didn't talk about that you'd like to know. If you've got any questions, I've got my Discord server down there if you want to come in the off-topic section. I like to talk about some of the Star Wars books, so join that and talk with me, or YouTube comments. However you want to get a hold of me, I'm on Twitter as well. I'll put that link below. But yeah, let me know what you thought of this, what I can do better. It's my first ever book review, so it's probably not going to be the greatest. I'll get better as I do more of these. So, let me know what you guys think if you want me to do more of these. So I'm going to keep reading the Star Wars books. That's definitely not going to stop. So I might as well be making some videos of them. So yeah, I appreciate everybody for listening and checking out the channel. I'll catch you guys around.